Hello everyone, today we are going to do a presentation on dependent clause. Our group consists of Gideon, Ellen, Febrina, Bella, Shahla, Vincent, and myself. We will talk about what is dependent clause, type of dependent clause, subordinating conjunction and relative pronoun of dependent clause, the example of dependent clause, and the use of comma in dependent clause. Before we discuss about dependent clause, we will talk about clause first. What is a clause? A clause is a group of words that function as one part of speech and that includes a subject and a verb. There is two types of a clause, independent clause and dependent clause. So what is dependent clause? In English grammar, a dependent clause is a group of words that has both a subject and a verb, but cannot stand alone as a sentence. Unlike an independent clause, it's a clause that implies that there is more to come and is incomplete. Dependent clause, also known as a subordinate clause. Dependent clause cannot express a complete thought because this clause is preceded by a word subordinator, which causes the meaning of the clause to depend so that it cannot stand alone as a sentence. The combination of independent clause with dependent clause produce a complex sentence. The dependent clause must be combined with independent clause to make them have a reasonable and understandable meaning. So what are the type of dependent clause? The type of dependent clause will be explained by my friend on the next slide.
Hello, my name is Febrina Oledewi, and now I'm gonna present about types of dependent clause. Dependent clause is incomplete sentence if there's no other sentence. So we must have other sentence which are called main clause or main sentence. Therefore, this dependent clause can be complete. Here is the simple structure of dependent clause. For connecting the main clause with dependent clause, of course, we will need a conjunction word. And here are three types of dependent clause. There are adjective clause, adverbial clause, and noun clause. We go to the first one, adjective clause. Adjective clause takes a role as adjective in main sentence. It has function to explain noun and pronoun in main sentence. We can use a conjunction word such as that, which, whom, whose, and where. And here is the example. The museum, which is built in 19th century, has beautiful architecture. From this example, we know that the sentence of which is built in 19th century is adjective clause. It is classified as adjective clause because this sentence explains the museum, and museum is a noun. Remember, adjective clause is describing the noun. The second one is adverbial clause. Like its name, adverbial clause plays a role as an adverb in main clause. This clause has function to explain verb, adjective, and other adverb from the main sentence. There are many common conjunctions that we can use, but here is the conjunction that people usually use. After, although, before, because, in order to, and many more. And let's take a look at the example below. You should wait until the rain stops. The sentence rain stops is adverbial clause because this sentence gives more information about the verb, which is wait. The last one is noun clause. Noun clause gives more information about the sentence, and it is complementing the sentence with the verb noun. We can use the conjunctions such as who, whom, what, which, whoever, and etc. And let's take a look at the example. They argue about how they should pay the bill. The dependent clause is how they should pay the bill because this sentence explains about the main sentence by defining what those people are arguing.
When a dependent clause is used as an adjective or an adverb, we will use a subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun. Subordinating conjunction. Subordinating conjunction is a word or phrase that connect a dependent clause with an independent clause. Subordinating conjunction will be used in adverb clause. Some examples of subordinating conjunction are because, if, after, before, until, and many more. Example: after she had lunch, she went back to work. The word after in the sentence is subordinating conjunction. Relative pronoun. Relative pronoun is used to connect sentence which explain noun and pronoun in main sentence. Relative pronoun will be used in an adjective clause. Some examples of relative pronoun are who, whom, whose, which, that, and many more. Example: I like the book that he just read. The word that in this sentence is relative pronoun.
Now I will explain about dependent clause adjective. The first sentence is Medan is a city where I was born. This dependent clause in this sentence is where I was born. Where I was born is explained about a city. The second sentence is did you hear about the earthquake which occurred in Jakarta? The dependent clause in this sentence is which occurred in Jakarta. The which occurred in Jakarta is explained about the earthquake. The third sentence is I know the girl who sold the old car. The dependent clause in this sentence is who sold the old car. So who sold the old car is explained about the girl.
Now we move on to the next type of dependent clause, the adverbial one. In the first sentence, it says, he literally stitched male socks until his fingers bled. The highlighted sentence, until his fingers bled, explains the consequence of the verb stitch and what it has caused. So the dependent clause in the sentence is until his fingers bled. We use the word until as the conjunction here. Therefore, this one is an adverb of time. In the second sentence, it says Charlie visited the city where his father lived as a boy. The highlighted words explain what kind of city Charlie is visiting. So the dependent clause in this sentence is where his father lived as a boy. The conjunction word is where, and therefore this one is an adverb of place. Meanwhile, the third sentence says the penguins returned as soon as their crops were full of fish. The words their crops were full of fish act as an indication of when would the penguin return. So the dependent clause is as soon as their crops were full of fish. The use of the conjunction as soon as shows that this dependent adverbial clause is an adverb of frequency.
So now let's see some examples on how dependent clause type noun is used in a real and complete sentence. So the first one is last week our cat gave birth to a couple of kittens, but we didn't know where our cat was. So here, where our cat was is the noun clause because it becomes one as an object, which is a noun, and with where as conjunction because the context here denotes the location of the cat. Number two basically goes the same with number one, that now our cat is home again and we can't believe how many kittens she has. How many kittens here acts like as an object that goes after a verb can't believe.
And number 3, what you're seeing here is a noun clause as a subject. What I had forgotten was that I had a test today. What I had forgotten here as acts as a subject, which then preceded with was as a verb and another noun clause that I had a test today as a noun. So that's all for the example of the dependent clause type noun.
Now I'll try to explain the use of comma in dependent clause. In our speech patterns, we are most likely to place the dependent clause before the independent clause emphasizing. In that case, we tend to pause to let the listener know that we have changed the usual order. So in writing, we place a comma after the dependent clause when the order is reversed. That's all for our presentation. Thank you for your kind attention.